Hi, folks. Mark Merrill with Firm. On our journal, Freaky Fraud Actors, plus other bills on crime and victims' rights, if there are any. Doesn't sound good. We're going to review a imprimis story from Hillsdale College on Minnesota Somali fraud scandals and how Maine should learn quickly to stop the same from happening to taxpayers' wallets. Also, there's some new bills in the work sessions, LD 2168 and 2163, that actually sound corrupt or could be not what they are supposed to dictate in the Maine Judiciary Committee. But as we start on today's program, folks, we look at the ongoing fraud schemes by Somali-led insiders in Maine and Minnesota, but also want to start with a few examples of harassment against Maine Wire reporter Jon Fetherston first, among other instances. Here's that first report by Fox News.
Going on in Maine, too, and residents there are demanding answers. Some members of the community, in fact, calling on the DOJ to investigate possible fraud within the Lewiston Shooting Fund, as we learn that nearly $2 million went to 29 different nonprofits since the October 2023 shooting left a lot of Americans dead. That money was supposed to go directly to them. And get this, some of those nonprofits only serve the immigrant community, like Gateway Community Services. Now, you should know, prior to this, Gateway was accused of misusing Medicaid funds and was recently visited by Homeland Security investigators. And Gateway's founder and executive director, Abdullah Ali, seems to have ambitions outside of the U.S. I couldn't believe this when I read it. Listen closely. While serving in his role in Maine, Ali was also running for president of Jubaland in Africa, where he boasted to a Kenyan media outlet that he helped raise funds for the Jubaland Somali army. Were any of those your taxpayer dollars? Here to unpack all of this, the Maine Wire senior reporter, Jon Fetherston. Jon, these details are shocking, and I think a lot of us watched Nick Shirley and we thought, oh, wow, what's happening in Minnesota? But it's happening in your state as well?
Thank you. It's an honor to join you this Saturday morning. Maine is rampant with fraud. President Trump was right. The nonprofit scandals. You know, the Lewiston shooting that happened was Maine's greatest tragedy.
Yes.
19 people died. But this scandal of the nonprofits taking $1.9 million worth of that money, and I have visited every organization that you put up on the screen and said, just tell me what you did with the money. I'm not here to question why you got the money, which is wrong, but I just want to know what you did with the money. And it's turned into, well, you're a racist for asking, get out of here, you know, how dare you ask these questions. So, you know, the cover-up is just as bad as the crime is. And David Jones, a Republican candidate for governor, has started an online petition to ask the DOJ and Pam Bondi to come in and do an investigation. And Amy Sussman, who is truly an angel walking among us here on Earth, is an aunt of a victim who died in the shooting on the day that he got his college diploma. She has led this charge. She has reached out to Governor Janet Mills, as have I multiple times. Governor Mills won't talk about this subject. She literally runs and tries to avoid me from this. Former Governor Paul LePage, who is also now running for Congress, reached out to the governor and said, hey, let's work together on this. Governor Mills rejected that offer with her. This is a huge cover-up, and it's taking from Lewiston Strong, it's now becoming Lewiston Heartbreak, all because of this.
We have some images from that Lewiston shooting. I'm going to ask our team to pull those up. You said the greatest tragedy for Maine. I mean, I remember this vividly. 19 people killed, you noted, 13 others wounded. The initial attack, it occurred in a recreation bowling alley during a youth league event. So in Minneapolis, we had this money that was supposed to go to children in daycare, U.S. citizens. But this is money for people who lost loved ones in a horrific shooting. $2 million goes to nonprofits. Do you have any idea what they did to it? And then I can't even get to this Ali guy who's accused of, you know, taking funds and then running for president of an African country. I mean, this is mind-blowing.
Kaylee, I've talked to victims that have been shot, and it's heartbreaking. And it takes a lot to get me upset. But when you talk to these victims, they can't pay their medical bills. But these nonprofits have taken money and refused to say what they'd even done with the money. And as you mentioned, the Gateway Community scandal, Gateway Community scandals has many layers to it. There's Maine Care fraud, which is Medicare fraud in the state, but then they also have an arm of it, which is a nonprofit that was run by Decca DeLock, who is currently a state rep here in Maine. She doesn't answer any questions about what happened with the money. There are so many layers to this that, you know, we're going to expose in the next couple of days via the Maine Wire some rampant fraud that is going to even make Minnesota look like it's nothing. So, I mean, it's out of control. And Donald Trump was right. You know, he told Janet Mills earlier this year that he'd see her in court. Well, Donald Trump's going to end up taking Janet Mills to court, and it can't be soon enough here in Maine.
While Mainers,
you can hear they're busy.
So that's just the tip of the iceberg once again, folks, with all the fraud going on here from the Somali people, or you should say the ones that have been taking office in the state. It's getting to be ridiculous, folks. Quite ridiculous. More to come. Especially here on Firm, folks.
Hey, folks.
What we're going to do right now, however, though, is we're going to get to another story here, folks, in another way, in relation to illegals being arrested from ICE Chief Officer Tom Homan. This particular one is just about, it should make you cringe as to the way he's been treated. And we have that here in just a moment. And I believe this was back on February the 10th. We do have it. So we will bring that to you in just a couple of more moments here. And we thank you for joining us on Freaky Fraud Actors, plus other bills on crime and victims' rights. We had to title it that way, folks, because it's really ridiculous is what it is. It's so stupid is what it is. The way they try to hide it. You heard Jon Fetherston just now. He says he tries to talk to Janet Mills, and she denies it or doesn't want to talk to him because she's trying to make it seem like it's going to go away, go away, go away. You're fake news. I'm thinking, no, you're corrupt witch. And you don't want to answer the obvious questions. Allowing the Somalis to come into this state and possibly illegally, we don't know that for sure, but Decca DeLock, as Mr. Fetherston mentioned, being a representative of the Lewiston area. No, actually South Portland, I believe it is, with Decca DeLock, but there's another one in South Portland and Lewiston as well that have been part of the problem. And they refuse to answer questions not only of the Maine Wire, but the legacy media, channels 5, 6, 13, 8, and I believe even PBS, just ignores it like it doesn't exist. Time's coming and time's up. You will be judged for your lying and innocent people dying in October of 2023. Media. Legacy media. Now here's the deal we have here, folks, from Tom Homan, talking about the arrests, not only in Minnesota, plans being scaled back in Minnesota, and something recently up to date.
We currently have an unprecedented number of counties communicating with us now and allowing ICE to take custody of illegal aliens before they hit the streets. Unprecedented cooperation. Now say it again. This is efficient. It requires only 1 or 2 officers to assume custody of a criminal alien target rather than 8 or 10 officers going into the community and arresting that public safety threat. This frees up more officers to arrest or remove criminal aliens. More officers taking custody of criminal aliens directly from the jails means less officers on the street. doing criminal operations. This is smart law enforcement, not less law enforcement. It's safer for the community, safer for the officers, and safer for the alien. This coordination also makes it far more safe for the Twin Cities. Arresting a public safety threat and the safety and security of a jail is the safest thing we could do. Further, less public safety risks are being released back into the communities, reduces recidivism. So local law enforcement can direct their limited resources to other public safety matters in their community. This is another priority of President Trump. The state prisons already cooperate with ICE on this coordinated transfer of custody, and we thank them for that partnership, and we plan to do more with them. I also want to reiterate and emphasize we are not requiring jails to hold people past their normal release time. We currently have an unprecedented...
We thank Mr. Homan for that report, and that's gone viral, folks, on Facebook as well as the rest of the World Wide Web, if you will, that we are on. I want to get some other matters here, folks, as we bring in our information podium here. Thank you for joining us on Firm. Another special edition of our journal called Freaky Fraud Actors, mostly the deflectocrats, plus other bills on crime and victims' rights. Now, we have a lesson here that we're about to present on how the Minnesota Somalis have undermined the state with no regard or safety precautions to legal residents. And this is a brief recount from an imprimis issue recently released. There it is, by Hillsdale College. As you can see, and we will certainly read it and have the excerpt to go with it as well, folks. Learning from Minnesota's Somali fraud scandal. Scott W. Johnson, a smaller picture of the gentleman down here in the corner, is a co-founder and contributor to PowerlineBlog.com. He's a fellow of the Claremont Institute. To go over his bio briefly, folks, the important part, as he's published widely his findings of public policy, including the National Review, Wall Street Journal, New York Post, the Minnesota Star Tribune, and the Washington Free Beacon, have been more than 10 years. 10 years, folks. He's covered Minnesota 5th District U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar and 3 major trials in Minnesota involving Somali defendants. When Ryan Thorpe and Chris Rufo published an article in November 2025 in the Issue City Journal linking fraud to the funding of Al-Shabaab, a Somali-based Sunni Islamist organization that's designated a terrorist group by several nations, including the U.S., President Trump took notice and announced the termination of temporary protected status for Somali immigrants. We believe at the airing of this podcast, folks, that President Trump is also taking some additional action to ban not only Somalis but Muslims from entering the United States. How's them apples? YouTuber Nick Shirley, I'm sure most people are aware of, posted a 42-minute video that showed him knocking on doors of the Somali-run daycare centers in Minneapolis-St. Paul that seemed to have no children in attendance, and they didn't. The video went viral, garnering more than 130 million views, but while this story was new to most Americans, it's anything but new to Minnesotans and others who have been paying it the attention it deserves. Another couple of things on this article here, folks. Learning from Minnesota's Somali fraud scandal. Reviewing public cases of 58 Americans also joined or attempted to join ISIS. was going on while the first controversy surrounding Somali immigration was coming into this country. Oh, really? I thought we were done with ISIS. Gee, thanks for doing nothing, Obama. It found that 26% of 58 Americans of them came from Minnesota to join ISIS. Hello? Your state sucks, people. It's dripping with fraud. It's starting to stink. Of 10 Minnesota Somalis charged with seeking to join ISIS in Syria, 6 pleaded guilty and 3 were convicted at trial in June of 2016. Oh, wow, isn't that nice? 10 years ago. Well, during the trial of these 3 Somalis who contested the charges, of course they're going to contest it. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, maybe that was a bad impersonation. Sorry. It became clear, though, that they took advantage of educational and employment opportunities and moved into and out of the workforce at will. And at one time, all 3 of these people worked at a UPS facility, ladies and gentlemen, in a leafy St. Paul suburb where they enjoyed watching ISIS videos of beheadings during their breaks. In the decades since the controversy over terrorist recruitment of Somalis has recorded, and Somali abuse of social welfare programs has proliferated. Damn. Next up, folks, we have some Maine legislature business. Two that we have up here, one we'll start with is LD 2163, which is an act to improve the response to complaints by victims of crime and enhance victims' rights, as we were saying in our presentation at the outset of the program. Now, what's going on here, you say? Oh, well, we got to go take a look at that further now, don't we? Oh, absolutely. And we shall, right this moment, folks. Once again, LD 2163 right here, an act to require electricity providers to inform customers of alternate electric rates and gather consent prior to contract renewal, and the other one, an act to improve the response to complaints by victims of crime and enhance victims' rights. Jeez. As far as the electric rates go, folks, here's the deal, the summary, which all LD bills must have. So the bill on the electric rates going up, folks, it requires competitive electric providers or electricity providers to provide customers with information at the time of contract renewal regarding how the customers can compare the standard offer service rate and the rates of other competitive providers. It requires entities providing billing services to competitive electricity providers and standard offer service providers to provide customers with information on customers' bills regarding how the customers can compare the standard offer service rate. Requires competitive electricity providers to gather consent, something that hasn't happened with the Democrats, I don't think, in the last 10 years. Consent for all contract renewals, and requires electric utilities to process electronic enrollments or enrollments of customers within 3 business days. Are you kidding me? They can't get any business done in 5 months. Lastly, folks, on this particular one, this one being LD 2163, as you see here, it requires transmission and distribution utilities to provide a list of residential customers who receive financial assistance from a low-income assistance program to competitive electricity providers and prohibits competitive electricity providers from entering into a renewal contract with a residential customer receiving assistance that would result in a rate being charged that's higher than the standard offer service rate. There's all kinds of things that are being violated here, folks, and they want to put it in there, and, God help us all, because I'll tell you what, it's not just this one right here. Janet Mills and her cronies, not to mention her other cronies in the House and Senate, have the majority to make decisions in work sessions as well as the House and the Senate. If you're not ticked off enough, folks, to make sure that Janet Mills doesn't get anywhere in her quest to replace Susan Collins in November of this year, first she's got to get past Graham Plattner. But number two, she gets there and starts pushing her weight around. Maine is in big trouble. Pray for our state and our gubernatorial candidates on the Republican side, and also our candidates on the GOP side for the Senate and the House in Maine at large. We need to take our state back. Pronto. As always, contact us for more podcasts, including this one. You can find us on YouTube, X, and now Substack. We'll provide those links. Contact us if you have any information in regard to violations of the First Amendment. We're all about truth, facts, reality, and common sense, folks. fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com. fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com. Stay safe, everyone. Peace to all.